Okay, so when we are having arrows, the next thing that you're going to have to learn is that when your arrows, you just need to write the words that describe where the arrows are going. And there's only 4 words you can use. You can only use left, right, up, and down. So let's start by looking at that. So this one right here, we're going to look at this arrow. This arrow right here is on the left side of the graph. So that's why I'm going to use the word left. Let me make my pen smaller. It's on the left side of the graph, and that arrow is pointing up. Okay. On the other side, this arrow is on the right side of the graph. So I'm going to use the word right. And this arrow is also pointing up. Okay, so I've used the words left and right, left, right, and I've used the word up. So when I look over here, I see that when I use the words left and right, I use them both, then the domain is going to be all real numbers. And I can write out those 3 words, all real numbers, or I can say X is an element of the real set, X because we're talking about domain, or then sometimes they just put the that double bar R, and they just say it's the real set of numbers. So these are just 3 different ways to write it, but anytime you use both the left word and the right word to describe your arrows, it's going to be all real numbers. So over here, my domain is going to be, I like this one. X is an element of the reals. Now the range, you're looking for the words up and down. I only use the word up. So since I only use the word up, then it's going to be my range, is going to be Y is greater than. And it's going to be Y is greater than wherever your starting point is. So again, when we're reading this from the bottom up, okay, the starting point will be the first time that I see my graph. There's where I see my graph right there. That's my starting point. That number on the y-axis is -2. So my range is going to be Y is greater than. It's always going to be greater than when your word is up. Y is greater than, and then whatever your starting point is. My starting point was -2. Now, do I put a bar underneath it? That's always in consideration. Does it get a bar? That's a solid graph right there. My graph is touching the y-axis at -2, so -2 should be included, so I get a bar. Okay, this arrow is on my left side, so I'm going to write left. And which direction is that arrow pointing? It's pointing up. And this arrow right here is on the right side of my graph, so I'm going to put right. And which direction is it pointing? It's pointing down. Okay, so for this one, look at the left and right words. I used them both. So my answer is all real numbers. The range, I use both up and down. Anytime I use up and down, the range is all real numbers. So same thing with this one. I use on the right side. On the right side, it's going up. And on the left side over here, it's going down. Since I use the words right and left, my domain is all real numbers. Since I use the words up and down, my range is all real numbers. Okay. This one I have on the right, I'm going down and I'm getting lazy. On the left, I'm going down. So I used the word left and right. Since I used left and right, my domain is all real numbers. I only use the word down on this one. Down. I use down on both sides. So if I use down on both sides, then it's Y is less than. My range is Y is less than. Okay, less than my stopping number. So go from the bottom up. The last place I have a y value is right here. That's the last place I have a y value, and that's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So y is going to be less than 5. Does it get a bar? Yes, it does. Why does it get a bar? Because there's an actual dot touching the y-axis at 5, so we should include the 5. Okay, we've got some special cases over here. Here we have arrow on the right side and it's going up. We still have another arrow on the right side. We're still on the right side, but this one's going down. So we use the words up and down. So that means the range is all real numbers. We only use the word right. So anytime we only use the word right, it's x is greater than. So I'm going to say x is greater than. And what number do I use? I'm moving from left to right. So the first time that I see an x value, that's my starting point, and that's the number that goes right there. So my starting place is -1. Do I put a bar underneath? Yes, I do. Why? Because there's an actual dot at the x-axis at -1. So we do include the -1. Okay, let's look at these two over here, number 13 and 14. I only have one arrow, so that's the only arrow that I describe, and it's on the left side and it's going down. So I only have left. I only have the word left, so I'm going to do x is less than. I only have the word down, so I'm going to be doing y is less than. So I'm going to do x is less than. And I'm going to do y is less than. And then you go to the stopping point. Notice that both of them said stopping point, stopping point. Left and down, you're looking for the stopping point. As I move it left to right, I stop right there. What is the x value right there? It looks like the x value is 2. Do I include the 2? No, I do not, because that is an open circle right there. So I do not put a bar under the 2. Now I've got to find the stopping point for the domain, for the range. Remember, for the range, I read it bottom to the top. So this is the highest point. So that's my stopping point. What's the y value right there? The y value right there is 0. Do I include the 0 by putting a bar underneath it? No, I do not. Why? Because there's an open circle right there. This arrow over here is on the right side and it's pointing up. The other side does not have an arrow, so I'm only going to be using right and up. So for right, I say x is greater than, and for up, I say y is greater than. So I'm going to do x is greater than, and I'm going to do y is greater than. Find your, what are the places that I find? For x is greater than, your starting point, and for y, it's also the starting point. So the starting point, when I move left to right, there's the starting point right there, the most left point. And it looks like it starts at -2. That's the x value. What's the y value at that starting point? The y value is 1, 2, 3, -4. Do I put a bar underneath either one of these? Yes, I do. Why? Because this dot right here, the starting point, is a solid dot. So they both get a bar. Okay. The next one are these weird ones. I do have 2 arrows on the left side. Whoops, on the left side. But is that arrow going up or down? It's going neither way. It's only going to the left. This arrow right here is only pointing to the left. So the word left is all I can write. It's not pointing up. It's not pointing down. It's just pointing to the left. What's happening on the other side? It's only pointing to the right. So we have left and right. Left and right, when we have both words, that means the domain is all real numbers. But when we don't have any word at all describing the range, that's what I put down here. If there's no up or down word, then it's going to be just one single y value. And we normally put it inside a bracket because it's a roster notation, because we can list it. What y value is being used right there? It's that one, that y value right there. And that looks like it's 1, 2, 3, 4. The y value is 4. Okay, same thing with this one. I've got an arrow going up. I've got an arrow going down. I've used up and down, so that means my range is all real numbers. I don't have any left or right words. So if I don't have any left or right words, and I just need to know what is the one X value that's being used, and it looks like it's that X value right there, and it happens at 2. So again, we're going to use roster notation and just list that 2. This one is a tad bit tricky because if a lot of people will want to say that on the left side it's pointing up and on the right side it's pointing up, and I'm going to challenge you to see that while it may be pointing up right here, based on the pattern in this, it's not going to go up forever. It's going to turn around and come back down. Then it's going to turn around and go up again. Then it's going to turn around and come back down again. So we do have left and right, which means the domain is all real numbers, but because this is not doing anything in terms of up and down constantly, I say that we have a very bottom and we have a very top. So here we're going to list this one kind of as if it had endpoints. It does have a very bottom, and the very bottom happens right here. Ooh, weird things are happening. And we have a very top number, and it happens right there. And so the bottom number is 1, 2, 3, -3. And that's less than y, and the top number is 2. It is a solid graph in both places, so I am going to include it. All right, I hope that helps.